Really captains my melees. Really captains my melees. touch of your heart. This is me. Captain Melees.
One thing I'm constantly amazed at is that a lot of people simply do not study poker or whatever else they're trying to get good at. You must have a solid foundation so that you know how to play well. So what is study? There are a few ways I think that are particularly good. There are a few ways I think are particularly bad. If you are coming home after work and having a beer and watching someone stream on Twitch, well, you're probably not going to learn a whole lot from that. What you need to be doing if you're watching videos, which I do think is a good way to learn, is to take diligent notes, be in there, be working. It's not supposed to be necessarily easy. I definitely suggest you pause the videos as you're going through them and ask yourself, what would I do in this spot? Then see what the person who you respect does in that spot, and if you're wrong, if you don't get it right, you probably need to figure out why. But yeah, take it serious. If you want to do well in anything in life, you have to work hard. It's not just as easy as showing up and hoping for the best. Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Little. I'm here today with episode 197 of Weekly Poker Hand. I asked you all a while back on Twitter if you are still listening and watching, and I got a lot of people who said yes, so thanks for that. So I guess I'll keep making some more videos. So in this hand, we are playing 100 big blinds deep. Everyone folds to the player in the small blind who min raises. I think this is a particularly poor play from the small blind because what you're basically doing is giving your opponent in position 3-to-1 pot odds to see the flop. So how bad do I have to be to not be able to win or realize 25% of my equity in position? Well, I have to be horribly, horribly bad. Or my opponent's hand has to be really, 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 really good. And both those things are often not going to be the case. This min raise is something you see a lot of amateur players do just because they've seen some pros min raise and they think, okay, I should min raise. But that is certainly not good poker, and don't do it. If you're going to raise from the small blind, you want to make it big. When you're playing this deep, you probably want to make it 4 big blinds. But I definitely use a limping strategy most of the time, and I think that's going to be your best bet. I discuss this a lot in my book, Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. You can get that at jonathanlittlepoker.com/mastering. So in this spot, my opponent did raise to 100 from the small blind.
Really captains my melees.
And I like to just call the ace-jack offsuit. I could certainly 3-bet, but if my opponent is getting tricky with a hand like aces, kings, queens, jacks, I say getting tricky, playing them really just face up and honestly by min raising. If he does have one of those premium hands, I don't want to lose more money than necessary. And by calling, I also disguise my hand's strength. So I don't mind calling. There is certainly merit in pushing whatever preflop equity I have if my opponent is just bad and is min raising with 9-7 suited. But I tend to err on the side of caution. So I do just call. Flop comes ace 8-6, giving me top pair, which is great. My opponent checks, and now what do I do? Well, the pot's 200. We're playing really deep. Clearly, betting is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with betting here. If my opponent was playing honestly with a hand like aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens, ace, king, well, I actually don't want to put money in the pot, right? Because if I bet and he does have a hand like queens, he's going to call one bet, but probably then fold on the turn or river. But if it goes check, check on the flop, he may be inclined to pay off on the turn or river. If he has ace, king, or aces, clearly I don't want to bet because I lose to those hands. And if he has garbage, like let's say he's sitting here with queen, jack offsuit, he's drawing dead, right? He's never going to pay me off. So the only time that betting really maximizes value in the spot is when I'm against a hand like ace 5 that decided to min raise preflop and then check top pair. Or a hand like kings that will check call all 3 streets, but I think that's probably not such a good strategy. That said, min raising is not such a good strategy, so we can't really count on our opponent playing well, can we? So maybe betting makes a lot of sense because of that. But in this scenario, I definitely like checking most of the time, mainly just to make our opponent have a very bad misconception about our range. He's often going to think we have a marginal made hand or worse. So if he is sitting here with Queen Jack offsuit, now all of a sudden he may decide to bluff, which is great, right? Because he's drawing dead. So it does go check on the flop, turns a king. Obviously, we lose to pocket kings. The opponent bets 100. I could raise, but again, I don't want to let my opponent fold out whatever bluffs he has. So I do just call. River is a jack, giving me 2 pair, which is great. The opponent now bets 600 into the 400 pot. If he bet any other regular size, I would have put in a raise on this river. I understand that we lose to ace king and queen 10 and the sets clearly, but there really should not be that many combinations of those in our opponent's range, and he may just have some random ace that'll pay us, or maybe king jack that will pay us. So I think we could get called if we raise normally. But when our opponent bets 600, 1.5 times pot, I think that is often a sign of extreme strength and should lead you to call. Now, I'm not saying you should make some big hero fold, because I'm expecting my opponent to make some blunders. Also, when the pot is relatively small, you will sometimes just see players bet big because they don't really know what the pot size is. They just think, oh, 600, that's some. I'm going to bet some, without realizing the pot's only 400 chips. Because at this point, the pot's probably like a bunch of 25 chips and whatnot. So it may look kind of big. Anyway, I'm going to call. Whenever I do assume my opponent's range all of a sudden becomes very polarized to either nuts or nothing, I want to look at my hand.
Shut your mouth!
Top and
and
ask, how does that...
Emergency storm tide, meme tide information. Don't open your commendation chest.
Why not?
So, your boy James meme videos. So, are you guys in the game right now, or can I explain this, or should I wait?
Yeah, you can explain it.
Okay, so you know how there's different two things you know. One, you know there's a power level, right? So like,
yes.
So your power level can go up to 300. The gear that you open from chest, okay? The gear that you open from chest will be around your power level, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what, you're supposed to like craft to get shit?
The commendation, so the chest from the different difficulties, okay? There's what, like the basic difficulty, it's like the beginner one, and then there's 4 total difficulties. There's like legend at the very end, champion second from the end, and like expert is the second one, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the way the difficulties work is the chest you get from those difficulties, even if it's the most ridiculous chest that you've ever gotten, with like every tome and every grimoire, on the normal difficulty, a chest will only give you loot up to power level 100. And the expert, which is the second difficulty, or whatever the second one is, will only go up to 200. But the commendation chests go up to 300. And they have good loot in them. So you want to save them until you have the ability to get high power level gear, because then you'll open them. I can show you. I can link the video probably. But long story short is, it's better to craft and get white stuff until you get a high power level, then open up all those chests. Or else they'll be useless, because you'll just get basic gear in them.
Play it. Commendation chests are the ones you get from leveling up, right?
Yes. You can still open them. Like, I don't give a fuck, but it's some faggot named Potates. But he's dank though. No ads. Time to win though. You guys, let me know when you're done, kids.
I was just playing Magic.
Oh, Bobby's jamming solo, Vermintide? Invite me, kid.
Maybe I will. Or maybe I'll go and feed my cats, because I have to do that.
Let's go. Time to win. Time to win, Mal. What are you doing? One guy nutted out. Shut your fucking So, yeah, so you can watch the video, Bobby, but basically, long story short is don't be shit, kid. Kid. Child. Did you ding 7, Bobby?
I dinged 8.
This is
That
what you
thing
do?
9,
You get home
actually.
early from work and just jam without us?
Yeah.
What's wrong
As
with
long
you?
as it ruins the game for you, that's all I really care about.
I really don't understand what's wrong with you. Done yet, Bobby, you fuck?
No. When I'm done, I gotta go feed my cats. I thought I said this already.
Oh, so I should go. Okay, so I'll do. Let's go. Time to win. Time to win.
Do you have seal away?
I walked in and they were already killing a rat ogre. Is that good? Where's my senpai, by the way? Anyone know?
So what flight bands?
Where's my senpai? I thought he was flying on Wednesday.
No, he's flying. He flew in on Tuesday. He should be flying out back to South Carolina right now.
I want him now. I don't want him later. I want him now. Time to win.
Time to Vin.
Time to Vin. Time to Dan. The truth is, Bobby, I just don't understand you. Understand? I log in. I'm like, all right, let me play this game that's multiplayer with my friends. And because you don't do that, I just am confused.
All right, so let me clear it up for
Let's
you.
level up as fast as possible.
That's not why I play games. I go,
I don't know.
I
That's
enjoy
what
this
it
video
seems
game,
like.
so I'll play it more. It's not
That's
for.
what it
It's
seems
never
like.
been
See,
for leveling up.
there's those things enjoying video games.
And see, that's the part that you'll never understand me. You will literally never understand me because of that.
But I don't know. Maybe I just don't fall for the enjoying video games.
That's exactly what the problem is.
I just don't get it, man. You know? Although this staff's actually sick, though. Time to. It's what is that? Warpstone crystal all over the ground? That's good, right?
Do against
That's how you know it's time to
the
win, right?
regular nut hands here. It's gonna be aces, kings, jacks, ace king, and queen 10. Well, I lose to all of those. All the nut hands I lose to. I beat all the bluffs. So this, even though it is two pair and it improved the time, it is still just a marginal made bluff catcher. And with a marginal made bluff catcher, you just want to.
So basically, we all save up our commendation checks until we're around level 300, and then we start.
The guy actually says start doing it at 200 total power for whatever reason. So, but I don't know. You can listen to the video, see what you think. See if you think it's bullshit. But he says 200, I think, is what he says. So you're at 200 total, and then you could, or else you're wasting a chest that's otherwise really valuable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
My opponent is particularly horrible.
Well, I'm surprised it doesn't lock in the rewards when you get the chest.
Because you have to start beating. Basically, he says you have to start beating champion level shit to get chests that get to level 300 gear. So, and you might not be able to do that right when you ding there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, true. So, like, it doesn't matter what source you get as long as it's past the second highest level of chest, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be getting the highest level of chest anyways, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So what do you? Yeah. It makes sense. How much we give a shit is up to you.
Let me go feed my cats. I give a shit. Marginal. I take care of these memes.
Or if maybe I mean it, maybe if I know it means marginal strength, then sure, we can go ahead and raise. But in general, I don't like this. The opponent does call, and we just win. So who knows what he had? I'm not even going to speculate because who knows? Oh, take a look at the notes here. He clearly meant to bet 200 on the river. Ooh. So knowing that, let's say this is from a small stakes tournament as well. It's a $1,000 tag team tournament, but actually people get to buy in for like 250, 250, 250, and 250. So it's really, really a small stakes tournament. If he meant to bet 200, now all of a sudden I'm definitely raising. Remember how I just said I would raise if he bet a regular amount, like 400 or 200 or 300, something like that. Most likely this guy had his chips stacked up incorrectly, where he had his greens on top, blacks in the middle, purples in between that, and the 1,000 chips. So at the World Series of Poker, the purple chips and the black chips, the 500s and 100s, look kind of similar. And if you're unfamiliar with them, you will very often make an error because you'll just pick up a black chip and the chip underneath it and assume that I'll make those. All the nut hands I lose to. I beat all the bluffs. So this, even though it is two pair and it improved a ton on the river, it is still just a marginal made bluff catcher. And with a marginal made bluff catcher, you just want to call. So we have a pretty easy call on this river. Oh, and I raise. Why did you do this, Jonathan? So for me to do this, I pretty much have to assume my opponent's just bad. And now, I clearly can't know that reviewing this hand a while after I played it because I don't remember playing this hand. But if I think my opponent is particularly horrible, I'll make this play. And for me to consider this, I have to have seen my opponent do some ridiculous stuff. I need him like overbetting with marginal made hands and calling it off. I need him just like bluffing a lot. I need him really tilty at me to where he may decide to hero call me with king queen or something like that. But this is certainly not the standard play. If I was making a pokercoaching.com quiz here, I would say raise gets like 2 out of 10 points, maybe 3 out of 10 points, not very many. I think calling is definitely the best, only because of the opponent's giant river bet. But again, if I know his giant river bet doesn't really mean anything, or if maybe if I know it means marginal strength, then sure, we can go ahead and raise. But in general, I don't like this. The opponent does call, and we just win. So who knows what he had? I'm not even going to speculate because who knows? Oh, take a look at the notes here. He clearly meant to bet.
What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and today we've got a classic Aces vs. Kings matchup from Live at the Bike for a huge pot. Should be a good one. But before we jump into that, I do want to quickly mention tomorrow at noon, I will be doing a poker live stream. That's right, the Bankroll Challenge is back.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
I was planning on throwing in a session or two before the World Series of Poker started up, and given that WorldSeriesPoker.com has now added liquidity from New Jersey and Delaware and Nevada all together, pretty good time to play, so I figured why not, let's do it. I'll see you guys tomorrow at noon right here on YouTube. Moving on, let's jump into this high-stakes hand between two people with very similar first names.
We're watching 50, 100, 200 here on Live at the Bike, High Stakes Friday. Jonathan's going to raise it up with pocket twos to 500, and Gary with pocket kings on the button. He's going to 3-bet.
Yep, 3-bet last hand with the ace-jack suited. Now he's going to 3-bet with pocket kings.
Garrett, we don't know what he has yet, but he is thinking about it.
Pre-raise 60, 100.
When you have pocket
Alright,
kings,
Megan's guess what?
Garrett 3-bets you. That is usually a dream
I'm
spot.
eating dinner
They are
soon.
playing very deep about.
But are you streaming though?
Effective, so 400 big blinds.
Wow, Garrett's got aces.
What happened?
Wow.
I'm eating dinner soon.
This is epic.
What a last hand
Like a minute
of the
or two.
night here.
Pocket aces for Garrett. Pocket kings for
Miles hasn't
Gary.
finished his dailies yet though, I bet.
But
Have you changed up your deck at all?
situation
Is that less so you changed up your deck?
He had a memorable hand last week where Gary
No, I think it was there for that.
45K on Garrett, and Gary just
Yeah,
calls.
Gary just calls.
Our hand begins with the hijack, making a standard.
Unless you did that today, did you do that today? Maybe it was you
Bottom
swapping
making
planes for
a
mountains.
standard 3-bet with pocket
Yeah, I
kings.
think.
And the action's starting to heat up when Garrett looks down in the.
I told you they were shit.
Aces. Now, this is a bit of an interesting situation. Pre-flop, we've talked a bunch lately.
But
about
why didn't you pull out a mountain or a plains
one
then?
of the reasons why it's much more interesting.
Why didn't you pull out a mountain or a plains yet?
What you can do. But I think out of position here, facing a 3-bet.
'Cause they're
you can
shits.
play your entire range as a 4-bet or a fold. So Garrett should forfeit here with, let's just say something like always 10s plus and always ace king, and then maybe
So that's
ace
a good point.
Ace 10 suited. Most suited broadways are probably going to primarily want a 4-bet, and then mix in some hands like 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s some of the time, probably 10s all of the time, and maybe
Just getting
some
pounded
now. I know some
into
of
the
you guys are
ground
like, why
by
do
a
you
rat
care,
ogre.
you know, which hand
Yeah.
you're talking about.
I must say, my team is, I think they're all worse than me, which is pretty rough.
Always good to understand
The reason I was playing is because I had another friend that wanted to play with
That's
me.
fine.
the way to play it post-flop.
I'm still gonna
If
bully
you
you
know
about it.
all of the hands
I also enjoy playing the game though, so don't let
It
it
is a fun
distract
game.
you. I played
It
Left 4 Dead.
is a fun. I'm enjoying playing it solo. I'm getting beaten in the ground by a rat ogre.
The size Garrett chose here of 16
Yo, the new class actually makes me nut. Oh my god.
Level
Fucking-
7 class.
Yeah, the level.
I don't
My
think
the
you
Iron
can
Breaker that I just got.
anything in the 5.7 to
It's actually the nuts.
6.5
I was playing on veteran
range, but this is a great
because I can, because you need actually certain hero power in order to play on the next difficulty, which I think you were talking about. But I'm confirming it in case you didn't know.
The value position does as well, because you get to make big
This game has like
decisions
lag
for
issues
money
though. Do you
or
feel those?
really
Do you feel it lag every once in a while?
I think it's local hosting. That's why.
Pocket Kings.
Yes, that's the thing. It's local hosting.
Miles not choosing his fanatical firebrand to attack.
And Garrett, we don't know what he has yet, but he is thinking about it.
You literally misclicked it. That's why. At least saw you click on it, and then you didn't click on it. Alright, I got soup, so I'll be back.
I just blocked the rat ogre and he hit me through the block and killed me. It's pretty rough.
Yo, my red. Oh, wait, he threw the block and killed you?
Yeah, I
That's
swear to God I
hilarious.
had stamina. At least swear to God.
I know. When I have
Probably didn't
Rob,
have
I
enough stamina. It probably takes
And
3 to
Garrett
do it or
forgets.
something.
That is
No, Rob, because I have 6, and it takes, I
But
think,
they are playing
all of it.
very
I think it
deep,
just eats all your
about
stamina.
80,000
But I think the more you have, the
so
less damage you take. Alright, I'll be right
400
back.
big blinds. Wow,
Dead, though.
Garrett's got aces.
Wow.
Oh.
Consider
This is
getting a
epic.
job though.
What a last hand of the night here.
Pocket aces for Garrett. Pocket kings for Gary. Button versus big blind situation. And remember, they had a memorable hand last week where Gary bluff shoved 45K on Garrett. And Gary just calls.
Yeah, Gary just calls.
Our hand begins with the hijack making a standard open with pocket 2s, the button making a very standard 3-bet with pocket kings, and the action starting to heat up when Garrett looks down in the big blind at pocket aces. Now, this is a bit of an interesting situation pre-flop. We've talked a bunch lately about deep stack poker. It's probably one of the reasons why it's much more interesting is because there's a lot of options in what you can do. But I think out of position here, facing a 3-bet, you're going to want to play your entire range as a 4-bet or a fold. So Garrett should 4-bet here with, let's just say something like always 10s plus and always ace king, and then mainly ace queen, ace jack suited, ace 10 suited. Most suited broadways are probably going to primarily want to 4-bet, and then mix in some hands like 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s some of the time. Probably 10s all of the time, and maybe 9s usually. Now, I know some of you guys are thinking, like, why does it matter?
Let's go.
Which
Time
hand
to
we're
win.
talking about, like, specifically how much you should do it, because post-flop, it's good. It's always good to understand what hands I can have in my range so that you can start trying to construct the way to play it post-flop. If you don't know all of the hands you can have in a range, it might be a little bit tough for you to figure out what you're supposed to be doing, and by thinking about that earlier rather than later, it'll improve your play. The size Garrett chose here of 6100 I like a lot. If he was in position, I like a little smaller. Out of position, it makes sense to go a bit bigger. I wouldn't mind seeing really anything in the 5.7 to 6.57-ish type range, but this is a great one, 6100. Cut down on those implied odds for the in-position player. It's especially important as stacks get deeper because as the amount of money behind increases, the value of position does as well, because you get to make big decisions for lots of money, or really use over bets to kind of leverage your stack against the pot and put the out-of-position player in a tough spot. So I like this size from Garrett. Folds back to Gary on the button. And with kings here, it's a bit of a tough situation. You are starting this hand with something like 300 and let's just say 60 big blinds pre-flop. So it's a little bit too much to want to get in pre-flop with kings, I think. Maybe against certain players with very high re-raise frequency as you could start to take it to town. But I'm not a big fan. I'm just trying to felt people with kings all the time. However, when you do face a 4-bet and you're in position here, I don't think it would be the worst decision to sometimes 5-bet with hands like kings, obviously aces, and then occasionally a couple of bluffs. So that
Let's
you do
go.
put
Time
your
to
opponent in
win.
a tough situation. If you
Time
increase
to
your
lose.
polarization here and you mainly have aces,
Time to
you can't really
lose.
felt kings himself because your range will be balanced. So in this situation, I would not mind seeing a 5-bet with kings. You are very far ahead of his range overall, and you can get some value from hands like queens and jacks. But I also don't mind playing your whole range as a flat here in position. Those are two different strategies. You can kind of pick what you like and see the pros and cons to both. It's really up to you. Anyway, Gary does decide to flat here with the pocket kings, and let's take a flop.
9-6-4 with a couple of diamonds.
Oh man, this could get huge. We could potentially see 160K pot.
It's obviously going to depend on the run out.
Bet 6,100.
How good is Gary to not 5-bet pre? You know, he's obviously doing it because he thinks he has the best hand here and he's trying to just protect his range, but in hindsight, this could save him some money by not 5-betting. 6,100 into
Just about half.
13.
Yeah. A little under half the size of the pot.
Gary should do nothing but call here.
Gary the only one with a diamond in his hand. He does make the call.
The flop comes 9-6-4 with 2 diamonds, a board that both players are going to be very excited to see. They both have overpairs. There's not too much going on. It's not like a board like 9-8-7 with a flush draw. It's not monotone. And additionally, neither player is likely to have hands in this ballpark that would play like this pre-flop, other than maybe a hand like pocket 9s. 6s and 4s I would anticipate to get out of the way in both players' shoes. Maybe once in a while they could each have one of those hands, but extremely unlikely to play low pairs that aggressively pre-flop. Now, in Garrett's shoes here on a board like this, you're going to want to have a lot of bets, and the reason is because you have 10s through aces, so you have all of your overpairs. Occasionally have a hand like pocket 9s, and then you'll sometimes have some suited Broadway hands and maybe some ace 5, ace 4 suited hands. And really all of these hands can benefit a lot from betting. They either have good equity against their opponent's range, they are very efficient as bluffs, or they're just ahead of the player who called in range. So there's a lot of merit in betting aggressively here in Garrett's shoes. Also remember, as your range pre-flop gets more defined, the more likely you should be to bet the flop. If your range is just, for example, aces, kings, and ace-king, well then you'd want to almost always bet the flop because your range is so strong, just as an example. Anyway, Garrett does decide to bet, goes for about half pot. I really don't mind this decision at all given the stack depth, and now the action is over to Gary. In Gary's shoes, pretty clear spot for a call. I don't think raising makes too much sense. I don't think raising on this flop in general makes too much sense. If you wanted to sometimes work in a few bluffs, maybe an occasional nut flush draw kind of hand, and then once in a while maybe a hand like aces, I'm okay with kind of constructing a range like that. But in general, in these very polarized situations as the player who's defending, you just want to call, because the thing is, if Garrett is bluffing, you want to keep him in the pot, and if he's value betting, you're going to be able to get value from him anyway, unless Garrett has specifically aces. Yeah. Let's take a turn.
A lot is going to depend on this turn card and how blank it is.
It's pretty blank. 2 diamonds, 2 hearts.
It's blank for what should be probably 3-bet and cold 4-bet ranges here.
And Garrett usually just goes for it here on 3 streets on these type of boards in this type of situation. Like, he's not one to pot control.
He's just thinking the guy is going to have a smaller overpair than I do.
And the thing is that Garrett bluffs so much, barrels so much, that he has to also go for thin value. So he oftentimes will just triple barrel, go for the maximum in these spots. Wow, he's reaching for a lot of chips. 25K in the middle.
Bet. 18,000.
Wow, 18,000 from Garrett.
So if Gary makes this call, and I assume that he's going to do nothing but just call, the pot will be 61,000 with about 48 or 49,000 left. Yeah.
So it's going to set up a perfect size for a river shove.
I mean, it's a large shove, but less than the size of the pot. You know?
Right. You always, when you have these situations, you always want to set it up so that you have a round pot or less than pot for your shove on the river.
The turn comes to 8 of hearts, and this is sort of an interesting card. There aren't too many hands that now change realistically. Maybe either player could have 9-8 suited. Would be a bit ambitious from either of them, frankly, but certainly possible. And maybe once in a while we could see Gary show up with a hand like 8s. Again, not very likely, particularly with an 8 in the turn. So this is essentially a brick, but what it does do is create a ton of draws now. Anyone that had backdoor hearts turns a flush draw. Anyone with a 10 has a gutter. Anyone with a 7 has an open-ender. Again, not too likely, but possible. Queen Jack and Queen 10 are not straight draws as well. Queen 10 is a double gutter. So, you know, we have essentially a lot of draws now here on the turn, and that makes the spot in Garrett's shoes you don't want to slow play, which is why I definitely like his decision to bet the turn here, 18,000. And I also like his size. Make it a bet size that commits a lot of the showdown hands that you're going to be beating, and also doesn't give great odds for draws to try and get there. In these big pot situations, you're going to have to sometimes just be okay with getting stacked if your opponent got there. I know it's a tilting part of poker when you wait for a while, you get a big hand, and then he gets there with his 2-pair or hits a set in the turn, but you're going to have to be willing to take risks even in those situations, because if you don't and you play scared, you're not going to win the pot as often as you should. Remember that the most profitable hand you'll have in the long run is pocket aces, but that will include some times where you build a big pot and get sucked out on. However, the majority of the time your opponent either folds or they pay you off with a worse hand, so you just got to go for it in these spots and not be afraid to fire. Now, once Garrett bets, it's pretty annoying for Gary. He doesn't really have much of an option here other than to call. There is still a chance that Garrett could be bluffing with a hand like Queen Jack suited, Queen 10 suited, Jack 10 suited, Ace X suited, or even Ace King or Ace Queen. Those are all certainly hands that Garrett could decide to bluff with. I will say I also think that Kings is a better hand to call turn with than a hand like, for example, Queens, because with Queens you block more of the hands that could be bluffing. Ace, Queen, Queen, Jack, Queen 10 are a bit more likely to be firing this turn, I think, rather than a hand like Ace, King. So in general, you want to try and
Shut your
block
fucking mouth.
hands that could be value betting and not block hands that are bluffing, and that makes me really like a turn call with Kings. It would be a bit better if Gary didn't have the King of Diamonds, but here's the thing. Unless he's got specifically black kings, he's going to block one of the flush draws, so you can't get too choosy in a lot of these situations. Anyway, Gary does decide to make the call. We got a big prop brewing. We got a big prop brewing, guys. Let's take a turn. Wait, we already did take a turn. Let's take a river. Tough day on poker hands today. Let's get the river card out there.
The river's a 10, and it puts a one-liner out to a 7.
That's no fun for either player. And for Garrett to shove here, he would have to think that, or even to bet big, he'd have to think that Gary specifically has queens or jacks. Because you can only get value at this point from queens and jacks.
Or kings.
You would think.
Or kings.
Or, sorry, or
Yeah.
kings, sorry. Queens, jacks, or kings. From Gary's perspective, he can only get value from queens or jacks. Or a random bluff. So, what will
It's a
Garrett
really
do here?
interesting spot with these stack sizes because it almost seems like kind of a polarized river if he shoves, but he does have aces here, and he might get called by kings, queens, or jacks.
Right, so the thing is, Garrett has a sick image. And most players would just check here if they have Garrett's hand in this situation. But Garrett is capable of shoving here, which, like you said, would be a polarizing situation, and doing it and still getting value against queens, jacks, or kings, because it's Garrett. But maybe he bets an amount that's not all in.
Bet. 30,000.
So he does do that. He, instead of shoving all in like he might have on a river, like a 4, for example, he decides to bet 30, and knowing that Gary would never shove here over him unless Gary has it.
Yeah, but I mean, Gary only has 48. I mean, even if Gary shoved, is Garrett going to fold for an extra 18,000?
I think so.
Pot would be 140, 18,000
Yeah,
to call.
but he knows that Gary's not going to bluff in that spot for 18K more.
I just think that this is sized down for value.
The river comes the 10 of clubs, making it 1 to a straight, but a very unlikely one. Really, the only way a player might have a 7 here is if they had 7s, which would be ambitious from either of them, or maybe ace 7 suited of hearts or diamonds, again, would be kind of ambitious. So not a situation you got to be too worried about the straight. I would be a little more worried about hands like pocket 10s or 10-9 suited. I think if Garrett or Gary are beat, it's going to be hands more like that rather than hands like straights. Now, in this situation, out of position for Garrett, it could be a little bit scary to fire because it is a spot that in order to get paid, your opponent has to have some pretty specific overpairs. And also, you could sometimes lose to hands like 10s or 10-9 suited or 7s. But here's something that really separates, I think, a lot of the world-class players from some of the smaller 6-1s. They're not afraid to bet when they feel like they have to. And in this situation, it is much, much more likely that Gary has kings, queens, or jacks than it is 10s, 10-9 suited, or 7s. A ton more likely. And some of those hands are simply going to have to call the river bet. If Gary only calls with hands that beat aces, a way too small part of his range would be calling on the river, and then Garrett can bluff. And that's an important part too. If you're someone like Garrett or any other aggressive player, the reason you want to bet aces in these spots is because if you do so, you get to bluff when you have a hand like a bricked flush draw in this situation. You're going to want to be able to work that into your range. Or maybe you can bluff with a hand like Queen 10. That'd be a great hand to bluff with here because you block hands like 10s and 10-9 suited. Now those are extremely unlikely. And that's a hand that could make sense on flop and turn. So if Garrett had a hand like Queen 10 suited, he could bluff here and try and get over pairs to fold. The idea is that you want to make it so that your opponent doesn't know what to do with those strong hands. And sometimes, even on a scary board, you got to pull the trigger. In Gary's shoes, this is not fun times. Now, Garrett can absolutely have aces and possibly kings, so there's a small chance that Gary is chopping. But I think it's very unlikely Garrett has a hand like queens or jacks. Those hands will be betting way too thin here. So there's not too much difference in my eyes between Gary having kings and Gary having jacks. The question is which one is better to call with. I think in this situation they're all pretty close, and when it is close you can lean towards calling with your better ones. I'd be okay if Gary in this spot wants to fold his pocket jacks and maybe call some queens and call his kings. I'm okay with that strategy. And also if he's flatting all of his hands pre-flop, he could have aces, and that's something that you're going to want to consider as well. If Gary can have aces in this spot, well, then I think I definitely like a fold with queens or jacks. You know, you block some potential bluffs. And well, yes, you also block the nuts. There are way more hands like aces that Garrett can be betting for value than there are like queen jack suited. So in this situation, as Gary, I think kings is really close either way. I would prefer to not have a diamond, but this is one of those hands you can go either way with. You have to make a read sometimes. Let's see what he decides to do.
Gary with the king of diamonds obviously blocks some of the diamond draws that maybe Garrett would have to run a bluff across all the streets like an ace king of diamonds. He can't have that. Doesn't have a heart in his hand though. So if Garrett was running some sort of bluff where he picked up hearts, getting 3 to 1, so obviously needs to be good here. Is he good here 1 out of 4 times?
I just don't think on this texture, the way this hand played out, I just don't think there's many bluffs that Garrett can have here. I know it's easy to say when we see the cards, but can Gary even name a bluff in this spot?
It's not the absolute worst specific kings that he could have here. The worst would be if he had king of diamonds, king of hearts. That's a subtle thing because it blocks the draws. He only has the king of diamonds in his hand.
He blocks the backdoor hearts. Now, like, one of the few hands Garrett could triple barrel bluff with here is maybe like ace 3 of diamonds, ace 5 of diamonds, ace deuce of diamonds, ace...
Remember, though, this is a cold 4-bet, too, so...
Ace 4 of diamonds.
I mean, it would just have to be...
It has to be one of those hands, right?
Crazy.
Like, those are likely hands. What other hand would he be bluffing with here?
But you just have to remember, though, he's not always going to be in there with a 4-bet with those hands. Like, you give him those hands, he's not going to 4-bet them. He's going to be folding a lot pre-flop.
Exactly.
So, it's sort of a stretch, but...
I mean, king, queen...
Wow, what a laydown. What a laydown. That is unbelievable.
Great fold by Gary.
Whenever you're the guy with kings here, just remember, eventually you're going to be the guy with aces. It just might not be the next time. Thanks for joining me today, guys. And remember, tomorrow, 12 o'clock Pacific time, we're streaming. I will probably not stream many times, so if you want to stop by and check it out, tomorrow is going to be the day to do so. I'll see you there.
What's up, guys? This is Will Witt with PragerU. Today we're at Venice Beach here in California, and we're going to be asking women what they look for most in a man. Should be fun. What do you look for most in a man?
Conservative and Christian. Those are my 2 top things.
Right here.
Nice.
What do you guys look for most in a man?
I look for a woman in a man.
Wow. What do you look for most in a man?
I look for a man who is spiritually sound, has a relationship with Christ.
I think respect is my number 1 thing. A lot of men these days don't know how to treat a woman, you know, with respect and just with kindness.
What do you look for in a man?
Tall, dark, and handsome.
What about 5'8", kind of dark and very handsome? Do you want masculinity in a man?
I think that's necessary. A woman needs to feel like she's protected.
What do you think about masculinity in a man? Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I like a guy that can grow a beard.
Do you like weak-willed men?
No.
There's a lot of those running around these days, huh?
Yeah, it's 2018. That's about all of them.
Do you want a weak man? Soy boy?
I don't know. I mean, I want somebody strong.
You want men to hold doors open for you and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you want a man to like hold doors open for you and be chivalrous?
Yeah, that's nice.
She loves
Is chivalry dead? You love boys? Yeah, you love. Oh, you love
That's the
boys. This is a
answer.
first date.
Modern feminism does have an influence on chivalry, just because a lot of women just want to prove that we can do it too, and I think that's somehow distorted some men's views on how they're supposed to approach us.
Okay, why do you think chivalry is dying?
I guess people don't want to try anymore.
Guys are getting more lazy, maybe not trying as hard. Like, they don't think they need to try.
Social media is like a really big part of it because everyone's just so comfortable. So like, wow, I need to go woo this lady so she like will go to dinner with me. So she lets me buy her dinner. It's
Just like a DM her and you're like, you're hot.
yeah, it's like I'm gonna post a bikini pic. Someone's gonna DM me like, let's hang out. Like it's just gross.
Am I too feminine for you?
You are not.
Good. Okay, good.
Shut your mouth, Sandro.
I
Shut it.
escaped. Fuck your state. Your state is shit. What? Land?
Hold on, I turned the sound
Only
down.
half
Is it-
Dan.
Why the fuck is Brendan Sandro?
Just crank me up. I've changed absolutely nothing.
Oh, you just changed your name?
Where's my team?
Wait, but oh, Sandro changed his name to that, but in Spanish.
Yeah,
Is that why I was so confused?
probably.
Oh yeah, Sandro's name is Donde
Donde estás mi
Estas.
escuadra? I think that's wrong, but
Okay. Time to win, Brendan. Wow. Time to win.
did you guys jam Vermintide the past 2 days?
We played I played probably once or twice yesterday, and like this is my second one today.
That's
Miles
enough.
isn't play. Miles isn't playing. We're like a couple games ahead of you, maybe.
I'll give it some time. I probably need to.
I'm gonna
throw
stop
dinner
after
on
this
the
because I want to
dinner.
get too far ahead of you guys. Bobby's actually ahead of all of us, but that's expected.
What the fuck is wrong with Bobby?
I don't know.
He
I
can't
don't
be
know. And it's
stopped.
like he doesn't understand what he did wrong. He's like a little kid, you know?
What did I do wrong?
It's like fuck off.
Maybe you should just ban Bobby. Problem solved. Wait, what do you mean we? I didn't know Magic was a Wii game. Oh, okay. Thought you were doing some tag team memes.
Shut your fucking mouth. The
How good?
one that like shit can't block and then comes back, yeah. And it's like creatures with power less than can't block or something. It's all right. Yes.
Now, how good would online Magic be if it had two-headed giant? Would it be unstoppable?
It'd be terrible. Just
That's
like two-headed
randos.
giant.
Maybe it should just be actually 2 games and you just like alt tab to the other one.
I'm time to lose. My team is like so shit in this game. Low 15, and I think he's like either teaching them how to play or what, because he's just not fighting at all.
It's
And it
great
throws me
taste.
off. Yeah. I'm not getting left alone. To fight, I at least fought the rat ogre almost entirely alone. I was like, oh, I was just like so confused. Like he probably has good gear, right? He's just not even like trying. Chaos Warriors are so big. Fuck off.
The
Pretty good.
touch of your hand
Sorry about rebanning you.
caresses me.
Bobby's always banned.
I'm
You
like
back home now,
perma-banned,
Cutie
actually.
Pie?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be.
Did you get a
Are you
job?
Cutie Pie though?
Oh,
Debatably.
the cutest Brendan I've ever known.
That's not very hard.
Yes. The answer is
Shit.
yes. You don't know Sell the Wreckage Kid? You shit. I said yes, so that's only a guess. I can look it up, but I just
It is.
It is. I was picturing it, and I pictured it.
It needs to be 2 colors, and it's a single color card, like board white. Yeah, but it's a board white.
It's a
Oh wait, it
one-sided
actually,
board
you
white.
know, it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, it does. It's a one-sided board wipe. Shut your mouth.
Well, there's that black one that's one black. No, there's a 3-drop board wipe. Oh, it's the red board wipe that kills non. No, I think it's 2 and 1 red.
You just hate gays. Let's
Well,
go.
look at
That
it.
means it's time to win.
That's gas and or cast.
Isn't cast out? If you suck a cast out, doesn't that mean you're winning by like a lot? Oh. People fall for the control meme in 2013.
Hey, Miles, look, you're not going to draw cast out now, and you're not going to draw that mountain now, so look at the bright side. That's actually always how I look at it. It's like if you didn't cycle that card.
Doesn't have a job. The host in this game is so fucking bad. I literally want to just intentionally wipe. This is just terrible. Just kill me. Kill me, Bile Troll. Thank God. Make it end. Someone kill it. Now kill the rest of them. Why do they have local hosting? That's a disaster. Did you know that, Brent? Did you know they have local fucking hosting in this game?
Yeah, everything's peer-to-peer. It's the future.
No, it's...
Just tell everyone to get not
Gave
shit
me
internet.
herpes.
It's not hard. Why is everyone else's internet like crushing it
Overwatch
and
has
suffering?
fine servers.
Yeah, and your boy has fine internet. Sounds like everyone else needs to get good internet.
Yeah, peer-to-peer is a disaster because there's some fucking Europeans on my team or some shit.
I'm surprised it's not like region or ping locked.
It should just ban people who have shit internet. All games should ban you if your ping is above 200. Like you just get insta ban.
Well, that doesn't make sense, but
Yeah, it does.
like what happens if
where did
the
all
game is
this money come
hosted in
from?
Europe and now you have 200 pings, so you're banned?
Then you
Hey,
get
Les,
banned.
Consider the
Bullshit.
following. I have $5,000 in my bank account, and then I get a $4,000 tax return, and then immediately get a fucking payday for $2,400.
Why would I consider anything
What
when
do
you
you
live
do?
at home still?
You'll lose it to surgery money.
Why would I lose the surgery money?
You broke your back.
I don't need surgery though. What the fuck, son?
Lose it to medical bills. That'd be a big fucking difference.
It's gotta be at least a little.
I at least
bit
saw
of
them.
Mommy and daddy
It
bucks.
was
there.
$3,000 for the MRI. Or sorry, $350 for the MRI.
Oh, that's respect.
Didn't you go to the ER?
He fell for the insurance.
No, I
fee.
didn't go to the ER.
Oh, I thought you went to
Actually,
the ER.
no, sorry, I did go to the emergency.
Yeah, don't you fucking lie to
Yeah,
me.
you broke your
Yeah, I
back.
went to the
Not
ER,
the
but
ER.
that doesn't mean that I went into operation or anything. That surgery.
ER costs money. Like when you
Yes.
go to the hospital, it costs money, and it's way more
Yes.
than $350.
Although
But
I think
anyways,
he was in
it's
the
covered
cop
by-
car, not an ambulance.
No, it's actually in the
Insurance
ambulance.
shouldn't cover the full
Oh,
bill
that's a
though. It
fine.
usually covers 90%.
And the ambulance is like $190. And you're right about insurance, but it's workman's compensation, so my work covers it.
It's a disaster.
Because I was working.
So if
You
I
were
die in a
definitely
plane
working.
crash, I get my workman's comp.
And they were like,
Steve.
and when I called Brad, he's like, "Yeah, that's what we have insurance for." And I was like, "Oh, I guess we put it like that, my man."
You're not supposed to collect on it.
Well, he'd like not to, but I was out for 3 months.
Pay the toll.
Sorry, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. What I meant to say, nothing else.
Just move out, Bobby, before you embarrass yourself.
It's too
I'm
late.
gonna try to get
You're,
Matt.
you're like turning
my goal.
24.
My end goal is to get
Think about
Matt
that.
hired and then live with Matt.
That is the dream.
Like, how could that not be the dream? Could you imagine a
Well,
better
Matt needs to get a job.
Commuting the work.
Yeah, but
with
Matt actually
Matt.
said that he would work my job with me, especially if I was there.
Over the
What do you
control
have to
team.
have 2 jobs worth of job?
Just have the company expand. How hard is it?
It probably will. We're like getting too much. We're like getting too much business right now.
Mine rate's
Who
going
wants to commit
public
suicide.
next year, kids.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
Ready for
Get
the
ready to
cash
bail.
flow? They're gonna buy every other company existing. Nut.
God, IPO is where everything goes wrong.
Don't worry, it's the Chinese stock market. So it's ironic.
Yeah, I guess the Chinese don't invest.
The Chinese actually have way stricter regulations on how you can go public and the shit you have to do to go public. It's actually sick.
Well, who gives a fuck about Chinese stockholders?
What? The Chinese do, I guess.
Oh, all 5 of them.
The answer is no one, right? But
Yeah,
Alright,
China.
so where are my maggots?